The warship Valiant Asterisk didn't fall. It screamed asterisk through the atmosphere of Voron 5, spiraling like a burning blade toward the blood-red surface. Its hull, once a proud emblem of the human coalition, now tore apart in streaks of fire, hemorrhaging oxygen, light, and silence into the toxic skies. Sarek Harlan woke to pain. Not the kind that made you cry, the kind that rewrote your brain's language for reality. Something cold and sharp had burrowed into the base of his skull. Something asterisk alive. His vision flickered not from his eyes, but from the system relays force-fed into his optic nerves. Command code, static, and the flashing red spiral of a critical override. He was still alive, barely, and worse, wired. He tried to move but found half his body pinned beneath the twisted remains of a plasma stabilizer. Sparks hissed from every angle. His left leg was dead weight. His spine was pulsing against the console like it had fused with the ship itself. A voice crackled over the half-dead radio, not human. Warning, Titan Predator targeting active biosignals. Planetary-level kill order authorized. Sarek's breath caught. Voron 5 wasn't just a battlefield. It was a graveyard with a heartbeat. A red world turned execution ground after the Coalition's last stand here failed. And now, one of the Coalition's own doomsday protocols was waking up, but this time, not under human command. His fingers trembled toward the interface socket embedded in his forearm. Neural linkage confirmed. Valiant status, he croaked. The AI didn't answer, but the sensors did. A shadow passed overhead, eclipsing the poisoned sunlight bleeding through the hull. Massive, pulsing with subsonic waves that vibrated deep inside his ribs. A live asterisk, and it was asterisk watching asterisk. He dragged himself up using a ruptured conduit, every nerve screaming. A split feed from the shattered observation deck blinked to life. A winged silhouette, bigger than the asterisk Valiant Asterisk. Hung in the sky, not flapping, but hovering, suspended by gravitational field distortion. The Titan Predator, Class 7 biomech hybrid, thought to be extinct. Thought to be mindless. Thought wrong. It had just asterisk eaten the Coalition's last orbital fortress, and now it was circling the wreck of a downed warship like a vulture, deciding whether its prey was still twitching. Sarek swallowed hard. He should be dead. He was supposed to be dead. Because Sarek Harlan wasn't just a technician. He was a classified Omega-tier combat engineer. And like all Omega operatives, he'd been implanted with a strategic failsafe. A asterisk tactical suicide chip buried in his cerebellum, designed to detonate if he disobeyed a direct order in wartime. The irony, there were no more orders. The Coalition command was gone. The fleet was gone. The war was asterisk lost asterisk. And Sarek, he was still here. Because 6 months ago, during a routine blackout maintenance cycle, Sarek had done the unthinkable. He'd hacked his own kill switch. Quietly, precisely, illegally, and never used it. He hadn't thought he'd ever need to. But now, buried in the corpse of a warship, alone on a dead world with a sky demon scanning for brainwaves, he realized what that quiet act of defiance had bought him. Choice, no more command chains, no more protocols. No more someone else's victory, just him and it. He stared at the ceiling of the cracked hull, where red light flickered through gaps torn by the descent. The Predator's hum throbbed like a choir of engines, made of bone and thunder. Every few seconds, he could feel it adjust frequency, not broadcasting sound. Listening, it was scanning for thought. Sarek's breath came short and sharp. If it found him, it wouldn't kill him like an animal. It would asterisk dissect him like a rival. And yet something deep inside his mind, the part that had long stopped praying, whispered a darker truth. It wasn't just hunting, it was asterisk studying. For years, the Titans had been silent. biological superweapons bred by unknown forces to dismantle coalition strongholds. This one didn't just destroy, it replicated, it learned. It evolved Asterisk. Sarek's hands moved on instinct. He reached for the auxiliary trigger cord. What remained of Asterisk Valiant's Asterisk core cannons were still buried in the northern wing, crushed, unstable but potentially functional. If he could reroute the charge through his own synaptic interface, he stopped. He could fire, yes, but no one would see, no one would know. The Predator would die, and Sarek would likely die with it, his nervous system fried by the recoil. There would be no witness, no monument, no meaning. Except one, he chose it, and so did it. The Titan circled again, lower now. Its bioacoustic wings cut through the atmosphere like blades of radiation. A low, resonant pulse rolled across the plain, a tone so deep Sarek felt it in his jaw. A challenge, it knew, it had found him. Sarek inhaled one last time. He linked in, the cannon spun up, but he didn't pull the trigger. Not yet. His fingers hovered over the neural confirm switch. Not to destroy, but to asterisk transmit asterisk. He had hacked his kill switch once. Now he was going to hack something older, the rules. He opened the signal path between the core and the Predator's frequency. And for the first time since the war began, a human didn't scream. Didn't beg, didn't fire, he just whispered, "I see you." Sarek Harlan was never meant to have a past, born in a refugee sector that no longer existed. His records were erased before he learned to speak. At 7, he was selected for the Coalition's Demigod Engineering Initiative, a program that didn't officially exist either. They called it Half-God Tech in jest, but inside the razor-wall training compound, humor was forbidden. Children were not trained to kill. They were designed to calculate the asterisk necessity of killing. And Sarek was the only one in his batch who never failed the simulations, because he never hesitated. By 16, he had survived 22 Black Zone simulations, rewritten code in live combat, and manually stabilized a magnetic orbital cannon during a solar flare, while his veins pulsed with a borrowed AI's command routines. But none of that earned him respect. It earned him silence, obedience, and fear, because at 16 years and 4 months, during an off-record deployment to the mining colony of Perhex 9, Sarek made a decision that changed everything. A neutron cannon had gone rogue, misfiring due to a feedback glitch. 32 personnel were trapped inside its firing arc. No one else moved, but Sarek did. He overrode his neural limiter, forced a full-body interface, and willed the weapon to power down, manually routing his bioelectric signature through the cannon's failsafe grid. It should have fried him, should have left nothing but ash. Instead, it left something worse, a precedent asterisk. He saved 32 lives. He also broke a direct order by refusing to evacuate. The punishment wasn't death. It was asterisk neural suspension, asterisk 48 hours of absolute blackout, floating in a sensory deprivation matrix, while your brain was looped through memories of your own disobedience. 2 days of total darkness, total silence, and endless repetition of the last moment you disobeyed. When Sarek woke up, something inside him had gone quiet. From that day on, he never moved to save someone first asterisk. He followed protocol, executed efficiency, never hesitated again, not because he feared mistakes, but because he refused to hope. Because hoping someone would survive meant asterisk caring they might not. And Sarek was done caring. He carried the scar of that suspension inside him like a second pulse, quiet, rhythmic. And always there when things got too calm. By 29, Sarek had become the Coalition's go-to Omega-tier combat technician, dropped behind lines, plugged into battlefield systems, ran tactical overrides in real time, and survived extraction through sheer nerve and numbers. He spoke little. He looked no one in the eye unless absolutely necessary. And if you gave him a kill order, he followed it, but he never smiled after it was done. In private logs, officers called him the Wraith. But Sarek didn't care. He wasn't a ghost. He was a asterisk container asterisk for things that should have been buried. 2 weeks before asterisk Valiant asterisk S crash, Sarek sat alone in the ship's central relay room, modifying the interface code for his neural jack, a routine adjustment according to his report. In truth, he was disabling the asterisk kill switch embedded in his brainstem, a chip designed to trigger instant neural destruction if he ever ignored a critical command during wartime. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't ask for permission. He just did it, and not because he wanted to survive, but because, somewhere out there, in the void of mapped galaxies, there was asterisk one being left Sarek believed didn't deserve to die. He didn't know its name, didn't know its species, but he remembered what it looked like: a small, fractured bioform with cracked wings and defensive reflexes that mimicked human emotion with alarming accuracy. He had encountered it once during a recon mission years ago. It hadn't attacked. It had asterisk trembled, as if waiting for someone to call off the strike. No one had, except Sarek. He reprogrammed the orbital cannon's targeting, marked it as debris, let the creature disappear into the dust. He never saw it again, but ever since that moment he couldn't stop wondering, what if it wasn't just mimicking fear? What if it was asterisk learning from it, now trapped in the wreck of asterisk Valiant asterisk? Staring at the sky as a Titan predator hovered above the horizon, Sarek felt a sickness deeper than panic. The thing flying overhead, it did hunt like a beast. It circled, it watched, it predicted asterisk. It wasn't a blunt weapon anymore. It was an asterisk analyst asterisk, a reaper with data. Every flight pattern was calculated to mask blind spots. Every pulse it emitted scanned for cognitive patterns, not just life signs. Sarek's breath caught when he realized it had been asterisk, adjusting frequency every 2 seconds, aligning with coalition command cycles. It learned our cadence, he whispered. The thought chilled him more than the cold air. Because that meant it was just hunting humans. It was asterisk mirroring them. Sarek pulled himself up, blood still trailing from the neural jack embedded behind his ear. The wreckage around him creaked, smoldering quiet. A graveyard of war, and yet above it, something that had once been prey now soared like a god. It used to be hunted, he thought. Now it's returning the favor. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from a memory that wouldn't let go. Not of orders, not of missions, but of a flickering heartbeat inside a wounded thing that should have attacked him asterisk, but didn't, waiting instead as if to ask, "Are you the same as the others?" And now, as the Titan circled once more, Sarek Harlan, combat engineer, rule breaker, ex-ghost, had no orders. No command structure, no kill switch, just a question echoing inside him: what would happen if I didn't fire? The moment Sarek jacked into the cannon's navigation core, the pain came like lightning made of memory. Not physical, personal. A high-pitched whine surged through the back of his skull as his neurons synced with the ship's still flickering combat systems. The interface was unstable, damaged by the crash, corrupted by heat and static. But it responded asterisk to him, recognizing his neural signature even through the smoke and fire and blood. Cannon system online. Biolink unauthorized. Warning: memory integrity will degrade after each activation. Proceed. He didn't hesitate. Confirm. A pulse fired through his spine, a handshake between man and machine. The tactical map snapped into his mind like a flash burn. Elevation, wind vectors, orbital echoes, acoustic resonance. Everything the ship could still sense, now visible in his head like divine geometry. And just above it all, beating like a war drum in the sky, was the Titan Predator. It moved in circles, not erratic, not confused, methodical. It was drawing a combat spiral designed to pin escape paths, limit sensor clarity, and mask its own trajectory from counterfire. Not even a human pilot would have pulled it off with that precision. And this thing was doing it without a ship asterisk, just wings, just instinct, or maybe something worse, understanding asterisk asterisk. Sarek locked targeting arrays manually. The main cannon's barrel was buried beneath fractured plating and exposed. Coolant lines, but structurally it held. He focused. The cannon began to charge. And then, as the power built up inside the broken hull, he felt it. The system took something from him. It didn't ask. It claimed asterisk a piece of him like tribute, a flicker. A name, a memory. What had he eaten yesterday? Where had he hidden the auxiliary charge key? Gone. His short-term memory clipped by milliseconds, torn away by the interface's thirst for neural precision. This wasn't a regular fire control loop. This was asterisk biosacrificial targeting, a wartime prototype that required human cost for inhuman accuracy, and Sarek was the last one alive to pay. But in return, the lock-on reticle in his mind narrowed with perfect clarity. He could see the exact shift in wind shear as the Titan curved left. He could feel the temperature ripple beneath its wings. It wasn't just target data. It was asterisk a heartbeat asterisk, a flicker of green target in range. Fire, the cannon roared. The sound was muted from inside the hull, but the world outside fractured. A white-hot pulse of light screamed through the sky. An asterisk barely clipped the Titan's right wing. Not enough to kill, just enough to asterisk warn asterisk asterisk. The creature spiraled upward, regaining altitude with terrifying grace. Not panicked, not injured, calculating. A synthetic voice crackled in his head, the ship's secondary AI. Corrupted but still sentient enough to scream its warnings. Hostile is Class 7, Hybrid Predator. Confirmed extinction-level event initiator. Has terminated 7 planetary populations. Coalition Directive Zeta 5 requires full elimination. Sarek gritted his teeth. I know what it is. Do not hesitate. Do not transmit. Do not interpret. Terminate. He closed the feed. He could still asterisk hear the voice in the back of his skull, like an echo. A ghost built from protocol. He wasn't even sure it was still real. Maybe the ship was gone. Maybe it was just his own programming, the synthetic parts of his mind clawing back control. Because something inside him, deeper than pain, deeper than duty, had begun to stir. A simple impulse, one word, bang asterisk asterisk. Shoot, kill, survive. His breathing grew shallow. He looked at the targeting array again. The Predator had slowed its pattern. It wasn't spiraling anymore. It was hovering, watching, waiting. What the hell was it doing? Another low-frequency pulse rattled the remains of the ship. This time it wasn't scanning. It was asterisk asterisk sending asterisk asterisk. A single tone held too long to be natural, too precise to be random. Was it communication? Challenge? Warning? Sarek's mind raced. It had copied their tactics, mimicked their formations, used their frequencies. It wasn't just mimicking war. It was asterisk asterisk learning strategy asterisk. And the real question was, what is it doing anymore? It was, what has it already learned about us? He remembered the debriefs. 7 planets wiped clean, no survivors, no traces of culture left intact. No resistance patterns repeated, each time the Predator struck. It struck asterisk differently, adapting faster than the Coalition could deploy countermeasures. It didn't just kill, it corrected asterisk its approach, like a virus improving itself after every immune response. And now it had reached something worse than intelligence. It had reached *** reflection ***. Sarek stared at the charge status. Another shot would cost him more than just energy. More memory, maybe *language, maybe motor skills. The system didn't differentiate between what mattered and what didn't. It just took what it needed. And yet he could kill it, here, now, one perfect shot. He could end the spiral, burn the thing out of the sky. Be the last soldier in a war everyone else lost. The voice in his head whispered again. Bang, but another voice stirred. Not machine, his. What if it's not killing out of instinct? What if it's killing because it was taught by watching us? The silence inside the wreck felt heavier than steel. His own breath sounded like betrayal. He lowered the interface control. And for the first time, Sarek did not fire. He wasn't sure if that was mercy. Or madness. He wasn't sure if he'd just saved the future. Or handed it to a nightmare. But as the Titan Predator drifted backward, not retreating, not attacking, just existing, Sarek felt the line between prey and predator blur. Because deep inside his head, both his biology and his implants whispered the same phrase now. Shoot. End it live. And he answered aloud to no one, not if I have to become it. The Titan Predator stopped. It was as if the wind itself had held its breath. Mid-glide, just above the broken skyline of Vorin 5, the massive creature paused, not because of injury, not because of fear, but by choice ***. Its wings, layered in ridged bioplating and pulsing with anti-gravitic currents, held perfectly still against the smoky red clouds. Sarek felt it immediately, not in his ears, not in his eyes, but somewhere deeper. A stillness that trembled inside him. The cannon array in his skull hummed for orders. His fingers rested on the neural relay, hovering over fire. But he didn't pull, not yet, because the Predator was watching him. Not scanning, not measuring, watching. That kind of stare didn't come from instinct. It came from memory. Sarek's heartbeat slowed. He closed his eyes. And did something no human had ever done in the middle of a battle interface. He opened the transmit channel. He wasn't sure it would work. The ship's cortex was barely functional. His mind was frayed from the last link. The Predator's brain was, by every scientific model, fundamentally incompatible with coalition biosignals. But there was one thing that defied all models: emotion. Sarek dipped into the archive of memories encoded in his spinal port. He filtered past battle logs, encrypted missions and briefings. Then he found it, the one memory he had refused to delete, even after command told him it was operationally unnecessary. The death of Commander Urin Vale. It wasn't a battle. It was a surrender, 7 years ago during the Orion campaign. A young Titan-class creature had breached the outer wall of base Hera. A rookie mistake, too young, too curious, too slow. Coalition troops opened fire, but Commander Vale he didn't shoot. He crossed the battlefield alone, while his men screamed for him to stop, and knelt beside the dying Titan juvenile. He placed a hand on its head, and whispered something no one ever recorded. Seconds later, the juvenile stopped writhing, and Commander Vale was torn apart by its parent, who had arrived moments too late. The military called it a misjudgment. Sarek had called it something else. The first time someone chose to show mercy without expecting survival. Now with trembling hands, Sarek transmitted the moment, frame by frame, pulse by pulse, through his neural link. Pushing it out into the frequency the Predator had used moments ago. No words, no command, just memory, just feeling. He didn't know if the Titan could understand the meaning. But it could sense the weight, the rhythm of heartbreak, the slowing breath, the trembling muscles of a dying creature, the heat of human skin pressed to scaled flesh, and then The predator shrieked. The sound hit like a sonic spear, ripping through the air, echoing across the canyon, cracking the charred hull of Valiant. The force knocked Sarek to one knee, pain lancing through his jaw and down into his spine. But the creature still didn't fire. It hovered, wings flaring, throat glowing with rage, but it did not strike. Sarek's breathing came fast and shallow. His ears were bleeding. His neural interface sparked with feedback, but in that moment, shaking, nearly deaf, he understood something. It knows grief. It wasn't just reacting to stimulus. It was responding to meaning. And maybe, just maybe, it had never been given the chance to. Then the sky changed. The predator released another pulse. But this one wasn't a scream. It was data compressed, patterned, laced with electromagnetic emotion that struck Sarek like a whisper across his mind. And as it hit, a memory, not his own, flashed into his head. The sound of distant fire. The image of humans laughing as another Titan juvenile was dissected alive. The face of a coalition officer calling it a victory for science. And then among the noise, one voice, his own, a recording. Distorted, grainy, but unmistakably him. Don't fire. Please don't, it's just a child. His voice from Orion. The scream he thought had vanished into the void. The moment he had begged command to hold the cannons. The moment they didn't, it remembered me. The predator had heard him. And not just then, it had kept him. It had stored his voice, his fear, his plea for years. Hidden inside whatever fractured mind it possessed. Like a fragment of a language it didn't yet know how to speak, but refused to forget. Sarek collapsed to the floor of the ruined bridge, not from injury, but from revelation. It wasn't just mimicking human tactics, it was mimicking human memory. It had learned from what we feared, what we killed, what we ignored, and what we begged for when it was already too late. It had taken his scream and made it into a beacon. A kind of compass. The Titan circled once more, slower this time. There was no aggression in its motion, no warning charge building in its throat. It passed above him like a sentient eclipse, then hovered once more, staring down at the shattered warship and the man who had refused to shoot. Sarek stood, bloody and shaking, and stared back up into eyes that did not glow with hunger, but with recognition. Maybe it didn't understand mercy, but it recognized silence. It recognized restraint, and maybe, just maybe, it had been waiting for that. Not a surrender, not an alliance, but a moment where someone didn't scream, didn't fire, did command it to be a monster. The predator banked left and began to rise, not to flee, but to leave, to choose. It didn't need Sarek's approval. It had already learned what it came for. Sarek watched it vanish into the red haze of the upper atmosphere. Every part of his body still ringing with the echoes of things he couldn't name. He didn't know what would come next, whether it would return one day to burn the sky clean or disappear forever into the void. But he knew this. It had learned how to mourn. It had learned how to listen. And it had chosen just once not to become the thing we feared. The targeting reticle blinked amber, charging sequence, *81%. Sarek's hands trembled as the final weapon came online, hyperblast. The last resort cannon buried deep in the belly of the warship Valiant, never before fired in battle. Powered by a neurofusion loop, it was designed to punch through planetary crust or sever orbital stations with a single blast. Or in this case, obliterate a Titan predator mid-flight. One shot, finality, but not without cost. A warning shimmered across the interface. Warning to complete charge. Full neuromimetic bank must be allocated. Firing will erase long-term memory. User identity unrecoverable. Asterisk proceed. Sarek stared at the message. If he fired, he would win. If he fired, he would lose himself. Every memory, every name, every mistake, every fragment of the man who had once begged a superior officer to hold fire. The boy who once held a soldering iron like it was a prayer. The man who refused to kill a wounded creature. The ghost who had nothing left but the voice of a titan echoing in his skull. All of it would vanish. No legacy, no grave. No one would know why the predator died, and worst of all, no one would know why it didn't kill him. He looked up. The Titan was still drifting above, keeping its distance, not fleeing, not advancing. Its wings pulsed with rhythm rather than threat. In the distance, the sky rippled with the heat of decaying atmosphere, and the wind howled through the torn fuselage of Valiant like a warning. This was his chance, a clean end, no ambiguity, no risk of return. No moral gray, just one beam of light, one righteous erasure. But Sarek's finger never touched the firing node, because deep down, beneath the pain, the noise, the fear, a deeper conflict had taken root, not whether the Titan deserved to die, but whether he deserved to be the one who decided. Sarek leaned against the cannon housing. The neural link burned against the base of his skull, urging him forward. The interface pulsed with simulated adrenaline, pushing command sequences into his mind like a digital whisper. Fire in this be the last, but a second voice stirred. Quieter, older, his own, the boy who once disobeyed orders to save a group of strangers. The man who once refused to shoot a Titan juvenile lying in a pool of its own blood. That voice whispered a different truth. If the only reason you show mercy is so someone else can see it, was it ever mercy at all? Sarek let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He looked back at the hyperblast core. The firing node blinked gently, inviting him toward erasure. Toward a kind of peace, but peace through forgetting wasn't peace at all. Slowly, deliberately, he unhooked the primary control cable from his neural port. The targeting array dissolved. The ship system screamed in protest, warning of aborted sequences, energy overflow. Cascading failure. He let it scream. He turned toward the auxiliary transmitter, now cracked and barely functional, and opened the lowest band frequency, the same one the Predator had used. One final transmission, not data, not targeting, memory. He accessed a private archive, one that had never been shared, never uploaded to any report. His first mission, his first kill, a mistake. He was 19. They had sent him to the ravine zones of Kasari 12 to override enemy logistics. He was ordered to wipe the nests, biohabitats used by enemy scouts. He followed orders, burned the data, fried the signals, flooded the nests with suppression agents. Only later, when the smoke cleared, did he see what he had missed. Not scouts, children, bioengineered, yes, designed for surveillance, yes. But they hadn't fired a shot, they hadn't even run. And Sarek, cold and efficient, had marked the zone cleared without blinking. He didn't cry, he didn't break. He filed the report. But that night, he opened the ship's vent hatch and threw away his rank insignia. And never wore another one again. Now, with shaking fingers, Sarek loaded that memory down to every burned breath, every flicker of red ash, and sent it to the sky, to the Predator. To whatever part of it still remembered what it was like to watch someone not hesitate. The signal was weak, garbled, incomplete, but it carried the one thing no weapon could replicate: regret. And as it launched, Sarek placed a bloodied hand on the hyperblast's outer casing and whispered, not to the Predator, not to the war, but to the version of himself that once thought violence and silence were the same. I'm not sorry for fighting. I'm not sorry for killing. I'm sorry I ever believed you weren't worth forgiving. The sky held still. No wind, no sound, just the fading hum of memories sent out into a world that might never answer. Sarek waited, a minute 5-10, then the Titan shifted. Not to strike, not to vanish, but to bow asterisk, its wings curling in, its posture lowering just slightly, as if acknowledging something ancient and wordless. Not surrender, not submission, but recognition. Then in one smooth motion it rose. Higher, higher, and disappeared into the clouds. Sarek collapsed back against the console. He hadn't won, he hadn't lost, he had simply not become the thing he feared. No one would know, there would be no medal, no archive, no recording, just a warship sinking into dust and a man who chose silence over erasure. A man who remembered because someone had to. The Titan predator roared. It wasn't the sound of rage, it wasn't hunger, it was something deeper. Ancient, frustrated, mournful, a pulse of sound that shook the fractured bones of the asterisk valiant and made the sky itself tremble, but it never became violence. Sarek didn't flinch. He stood in the ruin, hands slack at his sides, every nerve screaming, every implant dimming under the weight of what he'd just chosen not asterisk to do. His body was a conduit of pain, but his eyes never left the creature. The roar echoed once more, and then the Titan turned. Its wings flexed against the thinning air, and with a thunderous surge of gravitonic force, it rose straight into the clouds. No threat, no retaliation, no signal of war. It simply asterisk left asterisk. Vanished into the blood-orange haze of Voron 5 stratosphere, as if it had never been there at all. And just like that, the battlefield fell silent, no alarms. No cannon fire, no last stand, just silence. Sarek staggered backward, knees buckling. The neural core burned inside his skull, sending flickers of static down his spine. The pain was a flood now, full-body overload, a crescendo of agony from a system pushed past its limits. He collapsed beside the shattered transmitter. Above him, the sky began to brighten, not from a sun, but from the return of stable atmospheric readings. Across the continent, planetary defense networks detected the retreat. Red alerts blinked out one by one, satellites realigned. The kill protocols were withdrawn, and somewhere in the command towers orbiting distant moons, the coalition registered. Something it had never seen before. A Titan predator had disengaged. Not destroyed, not repelled, just gone asterisk. Inside the husk of the asterisk valiant asterisk, Sarek lay on his side, body twitching. He had done it, but no one had seen, no one would believe it. There were no witnesses, no recordings, no data logs. The only proof was the silence, the kind of silence that didn't follow death, but followed a decision. He reached up with trembling fingers and activated the final low-band emergency signal. The ship's AI, barely conscious, rerouted the last of its dying power to the comm relay. Sarek's voice, raw and broken, echoed through the static. "Don't record my name. Record the silence." Then the signal cut out, and Sarek fell into blackness. He didn't die, but when he woke, 3 days later in a recovery capsule aboard a coalition medical cruiser, he wished he had. His body was intact, but his identity was fractured. The Neuralink had burned out 3 sections of his long-term memory grid. Whole chunks of who he'd been were gone, people, missions, faces. He could speak, he could think, but he couldn't remember the names of the men he'd trained with, or what his mother's voice had sounded like, or the face of the commander he once admired. Even his own signature felt strange. He was alive, but he was not himself asterisk, not fully, and no one could explain what had happened. The Valiant's asterisk logs were scrambled. Its visual recorders melted from the electromagnetic backlash. The Predator had left no trace behind, not even heat signatures. To the Coalition, Sarek had survived a devastating encounter with an apex bioweapon, but had returned with nothing. No proof, no kill, no explanation, just a broken man and a broadcast that made no tactical sense. Don't record my name. Record the silence. It didn't go over well. The War Council demanded answers. Interrogations followed, doubts mounted, some accused Sarek of failure. Others suggested he had hallucinated. A few whispered of treason, of letting a monster go free. But one thing no one could argue, the Predator never came back. 5 years passed, Voron 5 remained untouched, Coalition scouts, analysts, and recon satellites watched the skies for signs of another incursion. But the pattern never repeated. The spiral of destruction that had consumed 7 planets simply ended. And slowly, in quiet corners of think tanks and military academies, something unexpected began to take root: the Sarek Protocol. It wasn't an official doctrine, not at first, but it spread. A new branch of interspecies warfare theory began to emerge, not based on domination, but on recognition. Not conquest, but interruption, a new kind of moral calculus. One that said, sometimes the smartest move is not to pull the trigger. One phrase from Sarek's memory transmission was extracted, analyzed, and etched into the walls of the Coalition War Ethics Institute. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is a strategic act of choosing the future. Sarek never returned to combat. He lived in quiet exile aboard a medical habitat orbiting the moon Calarix 3. No ceremony, no parades. His official record remained redacted, his mission log sealed. But every year, on the anniversary of the Valiant's fall, students across dozens of systems replayed that last static-laced transmission. Not to honor a man they didn't know, but to remember what was said. What was done, the silence that saved a world. Sarek spent his days tending the ship gardens, his nights staring at the stars. His memories came in fragments, some faded, some vivid. But the one thing that never left him was the sound. That roar, not of a monster, but of a being who, for just one moment, had been offered the choice not to become one. And took it, because someone had dared to believe it could. 10 years had passed since the warship Valiant fell into the skies of Voron 5. 10 years since a Titan predator, capable of wiping out worlds, disappeared into the clouds without explanation. 10 years since the Coalition's protocols on warfare began to quietly shift, not by decree, but by example. By a man who had refused to fire, by a silence that echoed longer than any cannon shot. Inside Lecture Hall Sigma of the Omega Non-Lethal Warfare Academy, the air was thick with stillness. A room designed for the brightest tacticians of the next generation, those who would lead, not just fight. Those trained to win wars without pulling a trigger. At the center stood the instructor, older now, grayer, eyes clouded with time but voice unwavering. His name was not shared. Officially, he was listed only as Instructor 41. But the students whispered a different name when he passed, the ghost of Voron. He never confirmed it, never denied it, but when he spoke there was weight in his voice. The kind that didn't come from victory, but from survival and from knowing exactly what it had cost. A student raised their hand, young, sharp, eager, the type that still believed every monster deserved a bullet. "Sir," they asked, "is it true that the Titan predator you encountered was responsible for over 3 million civilian deaths?" A few heads turned. The instructor didn't blink. "Yes," he said simply. Silence stretched between the rows of elite cadets. "And you let it live?" The question wasn't hostile. It was confused, earnest. It was the kind of question Sarek Harlan had once asked himself, again and again in the quiet, dark of sleepless nights, listening for a roar that never came back. Yes, the instructor repeated. Another student leaned forward. But how could you justify that? Even mercy has limits. A creature like that, if it had turned around, if it had struck again, it didn't. But how do we know why? The instructor exhaled slowly. He crossed to the terminal at the center of the room. A low flicker of light passed over his face. For a brief moment, one could see the faint shimmer of scarring near his temple, just beneath the hairline. Neural damage, long since stabilized. He brought up a file. No name, just a timestamp and a phrase. Don't record my name. Record the silence. The student sat still. You asked why it was spared, he said quietly. I'll give you the answer. I've carried longer than most of you have been soldiers. He looked at them, not like a commander addressing troops, but like a man telling a story he never asked to own. Because it had already seen what we were capable of. Every burned colony, every retaliatory strike, every moment where we chose to end rather than understand. It didn't need to be taught what we were asterisk. His voice lowered. It needed to be shown what we weren't always meant to be. The room didn't move. He continued, voice steady now. You think mercy is weakness. You think sparing a monster means risking everything. But you forget something far more dangerous. When we kill without hesitation, we don't just erase the enemy. He tapped his chest. We erase the part of ourselves that knew how to choose otherwise. A hand rose slowly in the back. But what if it had come back? What if it had killed again? He nodded. That was the risk, and you were willing to take it. A pause. Then softly, no, the room blinked. I wasn't willing, he said. I was terrified, of being wrong, of being called a coward, of watching a creature I spared destroy another world. I was not brave that day. I was broken, and I had nothing left to offer but the choice not to repeat what had already been done to it. Silence settled again, this time heavier. More respectful. Was it justice? He asked, almost to himself. No, it was not justice. He looked at the projection on the screen, a line of code where a name should be. It was a scream mine that no one heard, that no one believed. But the one who mattered remembered it. One student older than the rest, quiet, raised a final question. Do you ever regret it? The instructor didn't answer right away. Then he said, I regret that I was the only one there to remember it happened. His eyes didn't waver. But I do not regret that something other than us got the chance to learn how not to be what we made it. He stepped away from the screen and turned toward the room once more. This was not a lesson about tactics anymore. It was about truth. Being human, he said, was never about winning. He let that sink in. It was about choosing to lose, just once, so something else could learn not to become like us. He left the room in silence. No applause, no final exam. Just a room full of future commanders, staring at a message they couldn't dismiss. Not because it was recorded in history, but because it was. Because the scream had been forgotten, and the silence had survived.